Hi, it's Pete the Bumbling Modeler back again. I've lost the original introduction to what you're about to see, so I'm just recording this quickly to give you a bit of a preamble. Obviously, the model's more advanced than what you're going to see in the following 20 minutes, but basically what we're going to do is mask off the body shell so we can paint these little white stripes, high visibility stripes on it, do a bit of chipping on it, paint the yellow ID marker, that sort of thing. So that's what will follow. There might be a slight change in video angle and position. Sorry if it makes you feel a bit nauseous when it suddenly leaps around, but say the original introduction somehow got lost. So that's what we're going to do, and on with it. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we've started the masking process. So I keep doing that. Sorry. Initially, I've just absolutely festooned this area with tape. Just pinch that in a bit, leaving that semaphore which will be sprayed white. I've ended the masking tape clear here because we're going to have to mask a little area here that's going to be white, and I'm not too bothered about how much masking tape I use. It's relatively cheap compared to the model, so if I stuff up the whole model and have to respray it, yeah, but for the sake of a few quid's worth of masking tape, so I will go over the top. You can use all cheap options like using tin foil and cling film to cover areas, but this represents a considerable amount of work and time, so why risk ruin it with a substandard product? So next thing I'll do is around this yellow dot, the way I'll do it is get a bit of masking tape there with a V cut out in it. We can snuggle that up behind that circle there and then get our tweezers and just bring him round there. So we've got the basis of that masking started, and I've pulled it well clear of this area here because again we're going to have that white line sprayed on there. So I'm just sort of showing the way I do it really, and then once that's done we can get another little bit of tape, just detack it a bit so it's not completely sticky because this paint is stuck down, but you don't want to risk lifting it when you mask. And just use bits to slide underneath where you can, so you're getting a full circle but no little gaps. So we'll need another little smidge in that corner. Just under here, I think it was, yeah. So we've covered all of that. Tuck that out of the way so it just doesn't get any nerves. And there's a little bit on the top here where you can see it just behind where we cut that V. Bring that over so we're not encroaching on the wheel arch. So now when we spray that a yellow colour, that's all we're going to spray is that disc, okay? And then we can just block off big chunks of the rest of it. We're not too fussed, as long as we'll mask more carefully when we come up to the white line, but we just want to get all the stuff. We don't want yellow or white covered roughly. We're going to spray relatively precisely, but you still do get overspray, so we just want to make sure we don't get any paint that we don't want it. So that's sort of rough masking of the sort of main areas, the yellow circle, the little white semaphore, and it took next to no time. I'll now do something slightly different for this area around the real wheel arch, so I'll just switch off and I'll be back to you when I've got myself prepared. Okay, back with you. So what I'm using now is an Infinity cutting mat. I believe you can get this branded under AK as well, but basically it's a groove mat, so if you rub your fingers over, you'll hear all the little grooves. So when you put a knife down a channel here, it follows that, so you can cut quite precise and thin strips of masking tape. And this Tamiya masking tape, if you cut it thin enough, it will be flexible. So I've cut a little strip there about 0.4 wide, and now I can use this and it will bend enough to conform to the wheel arch of here. I've done this side already to mask that outer edge. This may or may not go well because trying to do it under the camera is slightly different, but if you just start it, you start pointing, stab in with your thumb, you can quite easily bend it round, now it's thin, and you'll follow the swage line. It's on the edge of that wheel arch, roughly. I'll tidy this up when the camera's not there. I can't get my eyes close enough with the camera, it's not there. I'm camera shy because I'm pretty confident no one's watching me anyway, if I'm being honest. So you can have a nice little curve strip there, then, oops, I knew that happened, sorry. Then we can mask up to that strip quite easy. So we've got a good 0.5 millimetre to put on masking tape against. In fact, we can show you that now with small strips of tape, again, cut off the board. If you use the Tamiya tape, it doesn't harden. You can leave it on here for years. If you're using a normal domestic masking tape, it does tend to harden and go rock hard and stick onto things. So I wouldn't use that on this board unless you take it off right away. But with the Tamiya stuff, you're relatively safe to leave it on there for periods of time. So as you can see, you don't have to be straight on that line now, so it's a lot easier to block it in with the other pieces of tape. So yeah, I mean, it's not the cheapest thing to buy. I think they're 10 odd quid or something for the, but it means I'm only ever buying one size of masking tape, and I can do fiddly jobs of this a little bit more easy than I could in the past. Now looking at our reference there, that white line ends just before the side light there, so we can cut another little strip here. Making a bit of a mess, that, sorry. I must have cut strips off this bit before, but so if I end that, oh, actually, but the tape slipped slightly there, so we need to bring him round and get all of it. I'm probably going off camera, but sorry, it's just I have to have my head quite close to this. Right, bring that there. Get this little bit of tape here. So just before the, so we pop that on there. And yeah, I've spotted there's a little gap there, and it's these little triangles you don't spot at the time, but once you've got white paint flying around, they stand out like a sore thumb. So just take your time doing this bit. And what I'll do is put this last bit of tape on, switch the camera off, and finish off the masking, and then we can have a look at spraying things on. Pop him down. So I'm making sure I've covered that, but I'm not going over the white line. So this whole area is going to be white. And then as I'll block off the rest, and then we'll come back and do a bit of spraying. Okay, back again quickly. So I've done something slightly different on this rear quarter. So there's 2 pieces of masking tape here. The reason being, on this front one, you can't pick it up on the video that well, I wouldn't imagine. There's a little swage line there that you could follow with the tape. Here you want a gap of a constant width, but you've got nothing to sort of guide you. It's just a flat piece of plastic. So I put this piece of tape that's 0.4 millimeters wide around and followed that curve. I've then masked up to that tape, and when I peel this off, I should have a relatively uniform area to spray. It might not be absolutely bob on and accurate, but I think your eye would pick up if the 2 sides had a different width. So you need to get them the same width, and the simplest way is to mask what you want, mask to it, then take what you want off, so you end up with that little strip. So I'll just carry on with this, and then we'll go on to the next bit. Okay, so we're back, and my camera's wobbling. I'll have to learn how to switch it on properly, and we've got a masked model. So those little bits there are white. That's ready to be painted white. Same here. We've got that little disc to paint yellow, and I just checked on the decals. Sometimes you get that as a yellow decal with the, in our case, the number 2 in it. This time we haven't. I probably would have sprayed it anyway, because I always find a yellow a little bit too vibrant. The other thing I want to do is start to distress the paint a bit. Those white areas would have been painted on after the truck was made, probably on the basis was based at, and they were just there as a a high visibility marking during the blackout, so any old white paint would have gone on. So for that reason, I want to get this liquid mask, and I use this on the headlight. It's an artist's colourless mask, Winsor Newton. You can get mask gold, the Humbrol product, you can get all sorts, but this seems to be better value for money. And I just want to get a bit of that on a cocktail stick, and just want to random. That was a bit big, but it doesn't matter because I want sort of random chips on this. That's probably too much for take that off. Make sure I'm on camera. So just on these edges, just put some little chunks where the paint would have been worn off as it's trundling down the road. So the paint wouldn't have been stuck on that well. It wouldn't have necessarily been a cellulose-based paint, so it would chip. And if we do this now, it saves painting chips on later. We can just rub this latex off, and it's one of these things you won't really see it, but you'd see if I hadn't done it, if that makes sense. There's a big chunk taken out there, so we'll leave that one. Don't go wild on this. We just want to get little areas. So that one, that'll probably do, and we don't, as long as we where people would have knocked it and scraped against it, and the paint's not that sticky, so they would have just scuffed off, especially where stones are coming up around the arches here, so that bottom bit will do a lot. And that'll just give us some little paint chips when we come to demask. We'll rub that off with a thumbnail, and that should all sort itself out. It's not a massive, oh, that's a bit of mist. It's not a massive bit, but it's just that little bit that'll help it along when we start to weather it later on. And again, around the front bump, there's the two white bits there, and I would imagine they'd get most of the abuse. So we really do stuff to them. So we'll get the blue coming through on those when we paint it. So the next thing is to get a bit of white paint and the airbrush, and I'll do it with the extractor so you can see what I'm doing. And we'll wang the white paint on that, and that'll probably do us for today, because the next thing will be to put a gloss coat over the whole lot. And once it's glossed nicely, we can put the decals down, we can put some pin washes on it to bring out some detail, and then we can sort about getting a base ready really after that. So give me a second to get myself sorted out, and I'll be back. Okay, so we're back and ready. So two things. The yellow I'm going to use isn't yellow, it's yellow-green. I tend to find that yellow looks a bit too vibrant, and although this, when you look at the gunk, looks quite greeny in the bottle, once it's on the model that'll look quite yellow, but not vibrant like a lemon. And the same with the white. This is white with a bit of buff in it, so it looks quite creamy there. But brilliant white would be really, really stark. So we want to try and minimise that starkness. And the other thing you'll notice I'm wearing a glove. You should do it to protect your hands against the paint, but I like to do it to test my spray pattern, because if you test it on a bit of paper towel, that absorbs it. You don't know if it's too runny or not. So I tend to, it's a bad habit, I wouldn't recommend it, but I tend to squirt it on the back of a glove while I'm spraying, and then I can see how it's coming out. But I'll just switch this off while I get the paintbrush set up, and then we'll spray it live if you can bear the noise, and then we'll see what we look like when we've finished. Right, so painting, here we go. If the compressor gets a bit noisy, I'll edit this out on the video, so it might go silent, but we'll just have a little go and see if we can get some paint down on this. Okay, right, let's get cracking. So Okay, we've had a bit of a paint run there, so we suddenly got a splurge out of that we didn't expect, so I shall quickly sort that out and then we'll be back. Okay, that may have been a tester, I don't know. Well, ooh, sorry, I keep on knocking the thing. What I've done is got a cotton bud and just eased away the paint there so it doesn't run too far underneath on the masking tape, and it'll harden up quite quickly, so it should be fine by now. If we have to respray that area, we have to respray that area, and that's one of the reasons I don't like to use paint mixes and just use a standard paint out of a jar, even though the colour might be slightly wrong, because if we had to mix and match that, we'd have to spray the whole lot. If we've got some paint creep under there where that big splodge of white came out, it's not the end of the world in terms of respray, because we've got an exact colour match because it's still in the bottle, so we can blend in an area around there and you just sort of fade it in this surrounding area, so any colour shift will be very gradual. Had I used one of these fancy colour mixes, it wouldn't have worked out quite as nicely as that, but we'll know in a minute if that's a problem. I'll just give it a little squirt on that yellow disc, and then we'll unmask it and see if we've got a disaster on our hands or not. If we have, it's a don't panic situation. I'd leave it 48 hours probably till it's all hardened up. Use Maskol on this white area and then just spray the other stuff in with the RAF blue. You may be able to sand a lot of the white away, so it's just a slight fade, but it's not the end of the world. Why that suddenly splurged out is one of these unfortunate things, and I'm quite cross myself because it looked good enough without that extra coat. That extra coat just kind of stuffed things up, but there you go. And the tip of that, I've worn it away a bit when I went in with the cotton bud, but the tip of that's going to be red anyway, which I'll brush paint in. I was never going to spray that, so that's fine. So I'll just switch over to yellow in the airbrush, and then we'll do that, or yellow green, and then we'll do that little disc, give it 5 minutes, then unmask. Okay, we're back with the yellow green in there, and in there it starts to look a bit more yellow as well, so when it's on the model it will look yellow. I'll just move everything out of the way, and I normally do spray in a paint booth before anyone's asking, but for these little tiny touch-ups, and because we're playing around on the camera, I'm not, but it's not what I'd normally do. Okay, gradually build that up. I think I might have that paint a bit too thick, so I'll just thin that down a little bit. Actually, I suspect there may be a bit of a block in this airbrush. It needs a good clean out after that last disaster, but I'll chance my arm and it'll probably go horribly wrong. And I'm spraying away from the white, so any overspray doesn't go that way. That's better. And I've just bumped my camera again, sorry. I think that's the habit that's going to annoy people the most, actually. It's a double action airbrush, so if I squeeze down I'll only get air, so I'll just lightly dry that off. When you see it start to fade, you're ready for another coat, really. You lose that glossy shine to it. You get more in that corner. And this is rushing it and forcing a bit, but I don't really mind. And I don't get away with it with Tamiya paints. So again, just another. Okay, so against the yellow masking tape, even that looks quite greeny, but when this is all removed in a minute you'll see. So I'll just clear out the airbrush and get ourselves ready for the unmasking phase. Okay, ready to unmask. I'm wearing gloves now, because I've had problems in the past where I think my hands are dry and clear of solvents and they're not, and it just softens the paint when I touch it and you get little fingerprints. So rather than take the chance after I've sprayed, I'll wear gloves. I was going to unmask this discreetly so you could see, I could see if it's stuffed anything up before you see it, but where's the fun in that? So we're just going to go for it. Where's my tweezers? We're going to have to go quite gently because if we peel back too fast, it's an acrylic paint. It doesn't really bond to the plastic as well. So if we go too fast, we rip the paint off. And we may lift a bit of paint. I don't know. Oh, sorry about that. That must be really irritating. I'll stop here, then we edit that out. Right. Yeah, wobbly camera man thing. I need the camera higher up, I think. But this has worked out all right on this side. There's no paint lifting. And this is almost real time, to be honest. Tamiya paints with a rapid drying lacquer thinners do dry really quickly, so you can do this. Just want to check them off. And so let's gently start to ease back. Let's get my head magnifier up so we can just gently peel back. We'll try not to do any damage while we're doing it. And this bit of cardboard is I've had white paper towel down last time and it really made the camera white out. So I'm hoping this will not give such a harsh contrast so you can see what's going on a little bit better. We're looking halfway respectable, I think. Okay, yeah, now bits have come off without, but don't forget that's the bits of mascot we put on because we want to chip this a little bit. So those bits that have come off are intentional, and they'll be hidden a bit when we put a layer of dust over it as well. I just wanted that initial bit of, sounds like I'm making excuses, but that's what the whole point of using the latex mask was. So we can just lightly distress our finish as though it's been chipped and battered over the years it's been on the truck. Okay, and then we'll have the same sort of thing here. Satisfying when a big chunk comes off in one go. This is still a bit wet. Somewhere off camera, so this is still a bit wet, but we should just get away with it. Hopefully you'll see now against the body that yellow looks quite yellowy rather than greeny, which is what I wanted. I didn't want that vibrant bright yellow, which will be there on the real thing, but looks a bit false at this scale. Okay, let's go. So far, I'll put my fingers in that when it's still wet, so we'll have to touch at the white on that one, but that's all right. That looks half decent. We haven't got any overspray. I'll peel off the latex, but yeah, that was me rushing. I'll when it's all dry, I'll just touch that with a bit of white, and then under the subsequent layers of varnish that'll all get hidden. But I was rushing a bit on the basis that I'll probably have to respray around that area anyway, I think. So we've got around the back here. So this bit needs to come off first by the look of it. Pop. That's clear. The main thing I'm trying to avoid is the overspray, the little touch-ups. Yeah, so what? I've mixed gallons of that off-white paint, so I've got a load of it, and I can touch up quite easily with that. So that's off, and a lot of this will peel off now because of the latex mask, so don't worry about that. And we'll try and distress it a bit more. I've got a little bit of white overspray there, but I'm not going to worry about that. I might be able to just get that off the sanding stick. That's what I was saying about closing up all the gaps, and I clearly haven't at that point. But that's probably not going to be that noticeable. I'm not a show-winning modeler, and never will be. I'm not even a show-entering modeler, if I'm honest. So, oops, I might have wandered off camera then. When I do make those little mistakes, I used to fret about them, but I don't think I'll never show anyone what I make. So, I know we got away with that. Yes. So that's actually relatively neat. There's a little bit of overspray there which isn't related to that leak, so just in that front face there, I just need to touch a bit of white into that, which is easy enough to do, and paint the bottom bit red at a later date, and that's easy enough to do. So yeah, I think we're just about. It's just chipping up nicely on the front, which is what we want with that. That was the idea of the latex. Didn't want anything uniform, just one of those little chips and marks. It looks like it's been scuffed and run into hedges and things. So I'll just switch this off. We'll put it back together on its wheels, so we're getting closer to finishing and see what we're dealing with. Okay, back. So we've that was a bit of a rush conversation. Sorry, back, and we've assembled it all. And that didn't go as badly as it could have done, to be fair. So what we've got now is, I've just glued the wheels on as well. One of the axles snapped. I'll talk with that another day. It's my fault. We've got our little white high-vis strips there that have got little bits of chipping on it, and they look a bit stark now, but I will also go around with a very fine paintbrush at a later stage and just put a few more fine scratches in it, so it's not just the big chunks, but they're beaten up a bit, and there'll be a slight coat of dust on the lower half, and that'll help blend it all in. So at this moment it's going to look a bit over the top. Where we had that big disaster and the paint splurged out around this area here, we're all right. We've got a few little patches there we need to put a bit of white paint on, and I've got to paint the bottom of that red anyway, so even brush painting, I'll mask it off just so there's no mistakes. I'd knocked that light loose, so I've had to glue that back on. So there's a bit of glossiness around here, that doesn't matter. So we're kind of there, and the next thing will be, we want to put a gloss coat on it because there's a big RAF decal on the side, and that'll be prone to silvering, which is where you're getting trapped under the decal. So gloss coat to try and eliminate that. I'll do that off camera because it's just spraying gloss, really. It's nothing fancy. Then we'll put the decals on, give it another gloss coat to seal everything in, and then we'll go around and do little pin washes everywhere just to bring out detail with bits of oil paint. So we'll put some scratches on the various bits and pieces. Then we'll give it a matte coat, some detail painting like the handle of that shovel. I wasn't going to, but I think I will. And then she's just about done. So at the moment, I think it's looking relatively respectable. I can just balance a few bits on. So that goes there. That goes on here. And I say we've got the seats to do on the inside, but that's, the seats are going to have a bit of red leather colour on, but you can't see anything. So I'm not going to film that or do anything of that nature. But that's just to show you where we're at the end of today, which I think, yeah, reasonable. Hopefully I'll edit this down to about 25 minutes, and I've just been on Amazon and ordered a lapel mic because I know the sound's atrocious off the phone. So hopefully of the next stage there'll be decent sound, decent video, and low quality modelling, I guess. So thank you for watching so far. If you're sticking with me, there should be a video up on this every Friday from now on till it's finished. I think I've got enough that I can be doing 1x1s editing, so hopefully that'll be the case. And we're going to finish up, as I say, by making a little base, yay big, bit of grass in one corner, concrete base, just to stand it on something to make it look like a vehicle rather than a plastic model. Okay, thanks for sticking with me so far, and any comments of anything you want to see or any different way you want me to do it, I'll be only glad to listen. So thanks and bye for now.